Hello everyone, this is Adeline. Next up is the Bunny April Cutie table topper. Bunny April Cape, yeah, forget that. Hello everyone. Next up is the Some Bunny Carrots About You table topper for the April Cuties class. Our colors that I've chosen are a little bit different, but we are going to start with a new center block called the orange peel. And as you can see, it does look like carrots. That's the idea. That's why I'm sure they selected this one. So for the center, you are going to have 3 different colors of green. There are actually 2 bright light greens and then 1 darker green, and then a little bit of a peachy orange color to represent the carrots. The bunnies in this table topper will be white. The background is going to be a lavender color, and as you see from the sample, I really like ours much better than the sample they came up with. All right, so right now I have already stitched out the 3 orange peels and cut 2. So it looks like this. All right, and the quilting is super cute. Look at those carrots, really cute. So to do the center design, you will need the 4 squares that are 7.5 by 7.5. And then I backed them with the Pellon Shape Flex. Then you'll need a piece of batting, and the batting is 6 by 6. And you'll need 4 of each of those. In your kit, you should have these little ovals already cut out. And the colors that I selected, for the green, I have selected this green, and the number is 210, because I like that. It seemed to go well with all 3 of them. The peach color that I selected is this one, and that number is 169. Here, let me put that in so you can see it. 169. So when you load the design, you're going to load first the quilting, the carrot pattern for the quilting, and then you are going to load the orange peel and center them both in your square, and you're ready to begin embroidering. I used white as my quilting. I know it won't show up when I show you what I'm doing, but I wanted to finish these and get moving on this topper. Okay? All right, so I am going to start. And the first step, as you remember from the others, if you've done them, is you're going to put in a placement line for the batting. So hit go, start your project, and attach the hoop. Just like that. Whoops. Run out of room this morning. Okay, and the white thread probably won't show up, but I think you'll get the idea. All right, here we go. Attach the hoop, and this is color number 1. And steps are similar to the deck cards. The pieces are different, that's all. Different shape. Place the batting, centering it over that basting line. And stitch. Remember, the tack down line goes around twice. The placement line goes around once. All right. Then you are going to trim off that excess batting close to the edge. And for this one, for today, I'm going to take the hoop out of the machine, but not remove the fabric from the hoop. All right. Quickly cut it here so we can get moving. And I'm about ready to go out and buy some Easter candy. Yes, I love Peeps. I'm one of those crazy, crazy people that loves Peeps. Alrighty, now, one of the things I'm going to do is when I open up, and what I've done here is I've floated the hoop options right up here. Some of you remember that you can do that with the Icon machine. So what I want to do now is this last one on the screen is the center design. So I'm going to tap that to center design, and now the needle just moved to the center of the hoop. The stitch didn't move, the needle did. So that when I fold the fabric in half one way, and then the other way to form the 4 quarters, as you see here, the center of the design right there, I don't know if you can see that, but the center is right here, goes right underneath that needle. And now I can be sure that it's centered on the placement line. And this is rather important because this measuring in this block is different from the other blocks that we did in the February one and the March. So now I am going to baste that in place. Actually, that's probably the tack down. And for some reason, it just does the top and the bottom. Oh, this is actually the placement line. I'm ahead of myself. Well, that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to skip to number 5. And instead of doing the tack down, I'm going to do the basting. I mean the quilting, rather. Now, this month, April and May both use the orange peel design. Alrighty, so now we're just quilting. super cute, those little carrots. So what you're looking for is KDQ 150 center carrot. And I put in the 5x7. There is also a 6x10. But I wanted to use my 240 by 150 hoop, and I knew the 6x10 wouldn't fit. Now, I'm not sure if there is a holiday quilting design for this topper. So, I'll have to check when we do that. All right, so now we're all done. And our next color is going to be the peach color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this a little bit out of the way. Sorry about that. I have my scissors there to snip the thread. And this design makes a little bit more sense, at least to me it did, to stitch out. So color number 2-1 is that outline. 2-2 is the tack down, and then 2-3 is the decorative stitch. So I'll go back to 2-1, and then let's see if I can move this up, way up. So now you should be able to see. There we go. Now remember, this is meant to be review, this video. We're actually going to do this either in store or on Zoom. Now, this little orange peel design is actually its own design. It's not a mirror image of it. So what I have to do is make sure that it is in properly. So what I do is, I'll show you here. I put the orange peel in the outline and double check that all of the edges line up. Because when I did this the first time, I had it on backwards. This point is different than this point. Then I am going to put my little ironing pad under here. I'm working on a smaller version for this hoop. And then I am going to press this like so. Now make sure when you press it that it stays within that outline. Very important. Alrighty. So if I wanted to, I could do the tack down line to make sure that it's correct, but I'm going to jump to the decorative stitch just to save time. And again, this is with that peach color. Let's make sure it's stitching. Alrighty, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to switch to the green thread for the next 3. That's why I say this goes fast. And sorry about my threading right in front of you. So let's take a look at the sequencing. So the sequencing, I really need 2 cameras and 2 stands, but not going to happen. This is very amateurish. So 2-4 is the outline for the next one. 2-7 is the outline for the third one. And 2-10 is the outline for the last one. So we're going to go to 2-4 first. And we're going to stitch that in. So, whoops. A little rough this morning. All right, here we go. Alrighty, then I am going to skip to 2-7 and do the next green. And then 2-10. That phone that you hear is my app telling me to go to the next color. Alright. So now I have all 3 in place. So what I want to make sure is that these are in the correct sequence. So I am going to set this down on my flatbed here. And this one has a little type of crosshatch plaid. It's not a plaid, but looks like crosshatch. And that goes here. This one is a green grunge, and that one goes there. Then the dark green goes in the back. I want to make sure I have them in the right sequence because it'll throw off our whole design if I don't. Alrighty, now I'm going to make sure that this is all set correctly. So I'm going to bring out my hoop. Make sure that, yeah, see, that one wasn't quite right. So I'm going to put, this was the original hoop pad that I made. This pattern is no longer in production, which is why I have to kind of make up my own. So I'm going to iron, actually, the little piece of fabric there, or right, that the little orange peel goes on top of. And then I'm going to hold the pad against the iron with my hand. I know you can't see that, but that's what I'm doing. Now, right here in the center, it gets pretty tight. Oh, my iron went off. Oh no. Which is why it didn't stick. All right, now I'll check and see which one is which. Now, there, that one goes like so. So you have to be careful when you line all these up that you don't build a thicker center. I did that on one of them and it kept giving me an error message. All right, I'm going to turn that one around. Okay, my little pressing iron's ready. So I'm putting my hand underneath. Let's see if I can show you what I'm doing. So I put the little pad underneath and I'm holding it like this. And I'm just pressing these in place. So now the new pad that I'm designing, the bottom, oops, see how I push that? You got to be careful. I got to just set that right down and press it. And we'll have that ironing fabric on the bottom. So I can take this out a little bit. Let me make sure I get that flat. So just put the iron on top and hold it down. Okay. Alrighty. Remember to take this out. And now what we're going to do is we are going to go back to the decorative stitches. So the decorative stitches again, remember, are, let's see, all the way to the end. Let's go back to 2, 6. All right. So it's 2, 6, 2, 9, and 2, 12. All right, here we go. Are super cute. I like this one. I picked out the basket weave for the border, the inside border strips. Hoping that the new one will be coming in rather soon. The new bolt, that is. All right, now I'm going to jump to 2, 9. that's the decorative stitch, remember. Making sure that everything is correct with the previous ones. And then the last stitch in this sequence is 212. I see I have a few little threads there I need to trim. Almost mesmerizing to watch this machine stitch. Even all these years later, I still sit there and watch it, so it's amazing. All right. So I was talking about right here, there's a few little threads, so I just need to trim those out. And we're done. There we are. Next up, how to trim them to a 5.5 inch square. Well, now it's time to cut our blocks, now that they're all finished, into the 5.5 by 5.5 inch blocks according to the directions. One of the things that is a very good tip is to make sure you mark them with a water-soluble or heat-sensitive pen. I've already have my little friction pen out, and the reason we're going to mark them is because we have to make a really accurate cut. So to find the center, it would be simple, but we're not using the center as our guide. We want to measure 2 3/4 so that we can cut the design into the correct size. So here we go. All right, so what I did is, the way I did it may be a little bit different than what the book shows you, but it worked out. So I took my ruler and I want to use this mark right here, 2 3/4, and then follow down the whole ruler with the marks to align the orange peels. So what I did was I laid the 2 3/4 on the tips of the marks. So it looks like this. So as you can see, right here, it matches up at 2 3/4, and then right here it matches at 2 3/4. So what I'm going to do now is draw a line Whoops, just like that. Now, see, I have this lined up right here with the ruler. See, those two petals are sitting right on that 3-inch mark. However, my fabric is crooked. So what we want to do is we want to make sure this block is square. So there's my first mark. Then I'm going to turn it and do the same thing on the next side. I'm going to line up those 2 3/4 inch marks and mark it. Then turn it again, mark, align it with the marks on the ruler. And then turn it again. Then I'm going to check to make sure that this is a 5.5 inch square. Excuse me. I could cut that out if I knew how to do it in the video. I'm still very much the amateur. Excuse me. Okay, so when I put the ruler down and mark it, as you can see, it's a 5.5 inch square. Right there. I hope that makes sense. So now it's time to cut. So I'm just going to line it up, make sure my lines are straight, and cut. Okay, line it up. So you see I have the 5.5 inch mark right here on this blue line, cutting on this blue line. Need a new blade. And then 5.5. That one's off a little bit. I'm checking here to make sure my marks are right on the 5.5 inch mark. So I'm going to trim that too, because that's a little crooked. So, I don't know why. My hand probably slipped. Let me get this right. The ruler slipped. That's what it was. Okay, and then I'm going to turn this again and make sure it's on the 5.5. So everything is all lined up. And I'm done. Now, I haven't sewn this together, and the original shaping went, let's see if I can, went something like this. This was down like this. This was here. This was here. And then the last one that I haven't cut yet goes here. Now, I was wondering what it would look like if they were all aligned. So, I'm going to finish marking this one, and then I'm going to play with it a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to line it up at, I'm going to use this inch side because it's a little bit easier to see the marks. You don't have to think about the math either. Okay, there's one. And then here's the other one. The idea is to have a 1/4 of an inch on each side of those little ovals. And there we go. And then the last one should be 5.5. and mark it. Now I'm going to turn my ruler around where the 1/2 inch markings are. And there we are, spot on. Okay, doke. And now we're ready to design the center the way we like it and then stitch it together. So as I said, the original design on the cover, one went down, the other went this way, this block went this way, and that's the shape. See, they're supposed to look like carrots. Do you think they look like carrots? So, I was going to see what it looked like if these all mirrored one another. Yeah, now I know why they didn't do it. I don't like that. But I had to see it first. So, this one goes this way. This one goes that way. And then this one goes this way. So I'm going to put my 1/4 inch foot on and sew these with a 1/4 inch foot and press them. And the center is done. All right. Next is the inner border, which there are 4 of them. And I am going to use a larger hoop. So I went into my hoop options and I selected my 360 rather by 260. Okay? Then I am going to use that large area to stitch all 4 of them at once. If you have a smaller hoop, you know you're going to have to do them in half, just like you did for the St. Patrick's Day inner border and outer border. So the first step I'm going to do is go into Edit Designs, and I'm going to duplicate this design 3 more times. So I can do it one at a time with the copy, paste, or duplicate icon, or you see this little fly out menu, that little arrow, I can long hold on that. All right, come on, there we go, there, that first one duplicated. So I'm trying to bring that up, there you go. So now I want to add, since I already duplicated it, I'm going to just add 2 more. So it adds 2 at once. Now they're all piled on top of each other. So I have to figure out how to put them in order. So this should be the first one that I put in. This should be the second one, and these 2 are the last 2 that I put in. So I'm just going to deselect this one right there and select this one. So now I can move that over. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to move that one over right over here. Then I'm going to pick the next one. And I'm going to move that one right over here. Then I'm going to pick the first one that I duplicated and put it right here. Now, how I arrange them so there's the optimum area in the hoop that is stitched is I take the first one and I bring it up and outside the border, and then it turns red. When that happens, any designs go out of the border or the hoop area, icon will pop up to put it back into the hoop. So that's what I want to do there. Now I am going to do the same thing with the last border. And there, now you can see better. And I'll pull it up here like that. It turns red. This icon pops up. And now that So I have the first and the last one at the furthest points in the hoop. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this one up out of the hoop, back in. I'm going to move this one over out of the hoop, back in. So now all four of them are spread out basically even, and then they're inside the hoop, so I know none of them will be outside of the hoop and keep me from embroidering. So now I'm ready to go, and I am going to hit go. And it says to attach my hoop, which is what I just did. So let's go over here. And you will see that I have my purple selected. And that's the color that I'm using. And I'll show you the number. So the number is, I don't know if you can see that or not, but the number is 672. That's what I'm using. And I like this purple, which is why I don't have much left on the spool. Okay, now we'll go over here, back over here. And you'll see that I have my strips. Now I cut the strips for you at 1 3/4 by 15. And the reason I cut them by 15 is so in case there's any shrinkage when embroidering, that it will allow for that. The design that I chose is the 1 by 14. And so then I can cut it and have the design going all across the hoop. I mean the borders, sorry. So one is going to go over here, this one over here, and this one over here. I cut them cross grain so that you didn't have to worry about making sure that the lines on your fabric were straight. Okay, so I cut the pieces all 1 3/4 by 15, even though we're going to cut them down. And then I cut the strips 1 1/2 by 13, and that should fit. So we're going to find out in a moment. So you're going to do 4 strips of batting, 4 strips of batting. Okay. All right. So the first step, and some of you aren't, I know what I'm going to do next. What I want to do is I want to hit OK. Then I want to sort all the colors and merge. So I'm going to sort them all. So we'll sew out all the number 1s, all the number 2s, and merge them together so the machine doesn't stop. All right, so color sort and color merge to do all of these. Then I'm going to close that. And you'll see the first one is the placement stitch for the batting. So let's begin. All right, let me see if I can turn this down so you can get a little bit of better view. Here we go. Alrighty. So that's the first placement stitch. And I can't, this is in the way. Let me see if I can add more light to it. All right, now the second placement stitch. And so you see by selecting merge, it just went and is now sewing the second one. Now, don't go far with this one. Actually, don't go far whenever you're embroidering. You might want to stay close in case anything happens to your file. Okay. You can see the way I spread them out that there's plenty of room in between them. Definitely does save time in my opinion, and stabilize it because I don't have to cut it out and then put it on the next one. So there is an advantage to having a big hoop. All right. All right, so those are all color number 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center the batting in between, or just right on top of that mark. And I'm going to tape it down. Not a big fan of spraying because I don't want to get it all over my hoop and my machine, and sometimes the floor. So I like to just, now see that little bit is not going to be on the batting, so I've got to try and line this up the best I can to make sure that the piece is on the batting. Okay. And I don't want to, I want to make sure I'm enough distance away that I don't sew the tape. So there we go. It's nice to have that flat surface to really push that tape down. And this one's a little tight, but hopefully it'll catch it. Now once you get all these in place, then they quilt, you're all done with the inner borders. And that's the beauty of doing all of them at once. And it might be a little confusing, but you're not changing thread colors. You're only using the purple color, or whatever you choose to do the quilting in. I chose the purple. Okay, so here we go. Next up, placement stitch. Remember, it's going to go around twice. Let's see if I hit it. Ah, pretty darn close. PDQ or PDC, pretty darn close. missed the tape. So it's going to go around twice, and if you don't want to pick out tape pieces, you can move this down further if you want. It doesn't bother me that much because I can use that one and cut it off for the 10-inch strips. Because the inner borders, if you haven't done one of these yet, the inner borders are 10 and a half. 2 of them are at 10 and a half, and 2 of them are at 15. But I cut them all at 15, 1 3/4 by 15. Now, if you turn off your cutter, make sure you cut your jump stitches as you go along. Let's see how close. And this one's going to be close. Again, PDC. Pretty darn close. Well, obviously, when you look at this one, there's not going to be a whole lot of trimming here. I got pretty close. Nope. The hoop hit the iPad stand. A little rocky there. Now, I think this is the first time I've had the opportunity to stitch the borders and do a video. But this is the same technique for all of them. Now that one's going to hit the tape. So I think I'm going to just move the tape before it actually stitches. So I'll just move the tape up a little higher right here. Sorry about all that. See what I did? I just moved the tape a little higher. My hands, it'd be nice if I had 2 cameras, but you've heard the story. One of me only. Alright. Woo-wee, that is close. But just realize I'm not really concerned about it because let's see if I can get that over. Because this is just a placement line. As long as I got that in right, I'm good. Whoa, sorry. Immature, or not immature. Inexperienced videographer right here. So let me get that out of the way. That was the first one I did. I got better as I went along. All right, let's go. I got a little bird's nest there. All right. None of them are straight. Maybe the first one is the best one. There you go. Okay. Some of the YouTubers have cameras or setups where they do overhead shots. All right, now we're up next to do the placement lines for the fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the batting out, and then I'll be back. Next up on this bunny table topper are the inner borders. And as you can see, I have the orange peel design in my machine. I am going to show you how to use the largest hoop you have, which in this case is a 360 by 260, to put all 4 borders in one hooping. If you have a smaller hoop, you will have to split the designs in half, just like we did for March's inner borders, for those of you that had a smaller hoop, didn't have the 360 by 260. So the easiest way to do that is to bring the design in and then do a copy and paste or duplicate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Edit Design. I have my orange peel design highlighted. So what I want to do right now is just go down to this copy paste / duplicate, and I can do one at a time, or I can add them 3 at a time because I already have one design on, and I can just add 3 more. So in this case, I actually put another design, so I only have to add 2. So you'll notice that it sits one on top of the other. So I'm going to take the one on top, and I want to make sure it's the top one right here. So I'm going to deselect this. And remember, the last one in the sequence is the last item that I added, and in this case, the inner border. So I'm going to select that one. Alrighty, so what I basically did was I visually centered the fabric piece right on top of the batting piece. And rather than do the placement stitch, I'm going to skip it. So I just centered it visually over the batting. And I am going to skip it and go to the tack down. There, I got a bigger piece of Kimberbell tape here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the screen, and I am going to skip all the red stitches, go down to the purple. And as you can see, the purple are only the sides. And I just figured that the placement stitch for the fabric was just an extra step. So let's see how it goes, shall we? Okay. So as you can see, it's basting right along that edge. Now, if you turned off your cutter, then you have a jump stitch. Okay. stitching backwards, going up along the side of that fabric strip. Now the trick is to make sure that these are horizontally even. Start off a little crooked, but I think they'll be okay in the topper. Alrighty. Let's see how straight that is. Not too bad. Right along that edge. Again, let's see how straight I put it down. Not bad. All right, see it's got a little dimple there. Okay, so next up, as you can see, are the blue, and the blue I changed from yellow to blue so that you could see what I was doing. So next up is the orange peel design. And there we go. And I'll be back in a bit to finish quilting. A little rough there. Now I'm ready to cut out the strips and sew them to the center blocks. The first thing that you can see that I've done is I literally cut the strip out of the stabilizer. So I just ran my scissors right up the edge, right along that basing edge there, and then across the bottom, and then just back up again. And I just put my scissors right in the way, you know, in that little cut area, and just slide it along. So now I've cut out all of the pieces from my hoop. And one of the things that I do is I like to remove the basting stitches right here, especially if they're going to be a little bit wider than 1/4 of an inch. But I won't do that right now. I'll do that after so I can show you how to cut these correctly. So the 10.5 inch strips have been stitched onto the center blocks. They're very simple to cut. All of these strips are simple, and I was mistaken. This file is 1 by 12, not 1 by 14. So as you can see on the back, it measures 1 by 12. Well, not even that. Let me see. One by, looks like 1 by 10, but I know it was a 1 by 12, so there's some extra space on each end. So what I did is I just centered the design and just trimmed it at 10.5. So make sure the center blocks are at 10.5 by 10.5. Now we're ready to do the 13. So this side measures, when you put it down on your mat, so here's my mat, that it measures measures at 13 right there. 0 to 13. I know you can't see it, but it's right there at 13. See? So what I'm going to do is I am going to take this strip and half of 13, 6.5. So I'm going to fold it in half and place that right here at the 6.5 on my cutting mat. And now I can cut this end and that end off. So let me try moving it this way. Hopefully that helps a little bit more to understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ruler right here and cut at 13, and then I'm going to put my ruler right here and cut it as 0. So now that it's 13 inches, then I am going to sew it to here's an example of what it's going to look like. So I'm going to sew it to the outer 2 sides of that center block. And then I'm going to move on to the bunnies. So next up, the triangles with the bunnies.